Ground Passers, and welcome back to another episode of the Ground Pass Podcast. Yes, it's another full episode. That is because it is the end of the season. Things are starting to wrap up, and it's the end of year finals. It's Davis Cup. It's the last Masters of the season. So, Nick, we're going to be coming to our listeners a lot more regularly than we usually would. We might still have mini pods here and there, but I think we're just going to have a lot more Nick and Anastasia for you guys. So I hope you're excited and ready to go. This week, we are going to be previewing the WTA Finals and the Paris Masters and looking back at the week of tournaments and news. It started off quiet, Nick, I think, but it kind of ended up being a busy kind of week of tennis news.
Yeah, it did. And I don't think we could quite get across all of it as much as we could. If you follow us on social media, we try and do like explainer reels or videos and things like that. And I don't think we covered everything. So yeah, we're going to do it all here.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just a busy week for Nick and I work-wise, so we can't really put in time into all of that stuff. So yes, we will cover it in the full podcast. A couple of just administrative notes before we dive into our question of the day, which I guess is the first thing I can mention, is we have started doing this thing ever since our birthday episode. We are doing questions every episode from our listeners. So if you want to send us a question, any sort of question, we will take it either about the podcast, about tennis. If you want to learn about something specific about the sport, send it our way. We'll comment on it. We'll try our best to answer your question. You can either send us a direct message on any of our social media platforms. All of the links to that will be in the show notes of this episode, or you can send us an email, which you can find there as well. Also, just a few places you can find this podcast. Wherever you're listening to us, if it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever sort of audio podcast listening service that you have, we are also on YouTube. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is we just have a lot more followers on YouTube now. Hello, friends. Welcome to Ground Pass Podcast. We're happy to have you here. I'm Anastasia, and that's Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hello, and hello to all of you new YouTube fans who, you lot came out of nowhere, but we're very pleased to have you.
We love having you.
There's another 1,000 of you now, which is very exciting. And I'm looking forward to going through all things tennis with you, whether you're new or whether you've been doing this tennis thing for a while.
Yes. So if you're listening to this podcast on, just audio, we are also a video podcast as well, and you can watch us on YouTube. I was actually just talking about this the other day, that I find it interesting that podcasts are now video and audio and stuff, and what can you do different in video that you're not doing in audio. And if you watched last week's episode of the podcast, all the little questions we ask and little sort of visual things, I've started to put the questions on the video. Or I know we were answering a question about jewelry last week. I put a little image of the jewelry. So you get a little bit of bonus if you're watching us on YouTube versus just listening, but we still explain everything audio wise. So you're not, the context of things you're not missing out on. But yes, that is all sort of the administrative things. Question. Our audience question for today, Nick, is someone sent this also via Instagram, and I will put the question up because I'm interpreting it. The spelling was a little different, so I'm just going to put the question up the way they, wrote it. But what I'm getting from the question is tips from someone eager to start a tennis podcast or sports podcast of any sort as well. I think they specifically mentioned sports podcast.
Sports podcast. I think this applies regardless of what sport you decide to cover. I would say you're kind of going, okay, well, how do I do it? The equipment to do a podcast is actually pretty affordable. Full disclosure, I record everything on a mic and a webcam that I bought for about $100 total, and I run everything off a Chromebook. So not sponsored by Google, sadly, but just wanted to put that out there. So the technology needed is actually not that complicated. What you need to kind of work out is what is going to make your podcast different. Because I've been involved in podcasts before, like where I felt like, do you know what? We're kind of trying to do what everyone else is doing, and we're not, and just basically hoping that our personalities are going to be enough. And actually, I think a podcast that brings a different look at things is probably the best way to go, whether it's from a particular fandom or a particular background. So if I think of some of the best like tennis podcasts out there that aren't just a news podcast, Murray Musings is a British podcast that's literally by a bunch of Andy Murray fans, and they look at everything from the perspective of Andy Murray. Or you've got Black Spin Global, who are very good friends of the pod, and they've been doing some great work with Wimbledon recently and celebrating Black players throughout history. And that's what they do. They're here to celebrate and promote the Black players on tour. So that's kind of what I would say is figure out what your niche is going to be, because that's what people are going to come to you for.
Yeah. That's such a great point and really great tips there. I will add something a little different, because definitely those are great tips to follow as well. The tip I will give is just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. Because I think, especially for me, before we started Ground Pass, I was very scared. I was scared of what people would think. Would they think I wasn't smart enough, or, that I didn't get the technicalities of things? So you do have that worry sometimes, and it is totally understandable. But I think if you are passionate about a sport enough, and you love a sport enough, and you just want to talk about it to other people or with other people, I say just do it. Give it a shot. What's the worst thing that can happen? You know what I mean? So as long as it's coming from a good place and you love what you're wanting to talk about, just do it. So that would be my advice and tip if you would like to start a sports podcast, because I know it can be kind of difficult specifically for that.
I'm done with subscriptions. Streaming, fitness, razors, vitamins. I've got subscriptions for everything in my life. They lock you in, and half the time, I can't figure out how to unsubscribe. That's why I'm so excited about the new Blue Apron. Now you can get delicious meals delivered with no subscription needed, including new pre-made options. Keep the flavor, ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Bustin' with the Boys is here to let you know that every college football Saturday, FanDuel is dropping profit boosts that can turn wins into bigger wins.
Sounds like we should rename Saturday Booster Day.
Nice.
21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Okay, so let's jump right into it, because we do have a bunch of things to cover, and I want us to really, especially with the previews, preview these tournaments. So the big one, and I want to start with it, is the WTA Finals. So Nick, you actually recorded a few social media clips, which will be coming out next week ahead of the WTA Finals, because the WTA Finals actually starts on the 1st of November. So you kind of have a week, guys, if you're listening to this, to sort of like familiarize yourself with the players who are going to be in the WTA Finals, get to know them, so you're kind of ready for the event and also for the format and everything that happens with the event. Couple of things. It is held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. That is new. So it wasn't before last year. So last year was the very first edition where it was held in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Before then, it kind of skipped around. We'll be honest, it kind of jumped around, and it didn't have a set home for a while. but it is going to be in Riyadh for a while. So the WTA year-end finals is going to be in Riyadh for at least a few years. So they're there again this year. And it's good for the WTA finals, Nick, I think, to have like a home for a while so that it can build a sort of viewership. And, you know, it's not sort of like a scramble every year like it was for the last few years where it's like, where is it going to be? What continent is going to be? And then players are trying to figure out travel and all of that stuff. Like now it has a home for a while.
It has a home. And I think that's really helped because I don't think the crowds were great when they were literally deciding during the year where it was going to be. So when it went to Guadalajara or when it went to Fort Worth that one year, and it didn't look like people were turning up, although that turned out to be a massive misrepresentation by the television cameras. Has had permanent homes in the past. Before COVID-19 happened, before the pandemic, it was in China, it was in Shenzhen, but unfortunately they couldn't go back to China for obvious reasons. So that and the sort of the Peng Shuai incident, which is a whole other thing. The WTA Finals is now in Riyadh. It has a home. Now, there will be people who won't be happy about that home. And I know for a fact that as soon as you said Riyadh, we talked about this kind of in the previous show when we talked about exhibitions, that's an immediate turn-off for people who don't want to engage with sport being held in Saudi Arabia. And I think we should just address the elephant in the room there and not pretend that it's all great. We've made our own judgments about sort of what we are okay engaging with, what we're not. I am going to be watching the WTA finals, but I understand if you don't want to based purely on that. But I hope that you're still interested in what the outcome is from a sporting perspective. But yeah, it is in Riyadh. That will probably put some of you off, hopefully not too many of you, and you still want to talk about it. But I just want to put that out there as it. I don't necessarily think it's a place that everybody likes, that the WTA Finals is there. I do remember when it was announced, I did a poll on social media, and like I did just a thing of like, so if you chose the WTA Finals, where would you want it to be? And the winner of the vote was actually Prague, because the Czech Republic has a lot of top players, and a lot of people think, why doesn't the Czech Republic have a big event? Other popular ideas were London, Berlin. Some people wanted it to go to South America, Brazil specifically, which would have been fun. That's kind of the safe option, really, in some ways, depending on your outlook on things. But yeah, that's. I don't think it has to be in Riyadh. It could be somewhere else.
Yeah. So, and, I think I can't remember now. I don't know if you remember, Nick, how long the contract is for. So it's definitely something that, it's a while. I feel like I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know exactly how long it is, but it's something that maybe could travel after the contract is done. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see what the tournament looks like this year, because I think last year, the biggest thing that people were impressed by, that I know a few people who did go to Riyadh, who worked the tournament. And I think the biggest thing for them was the permanent nature of it, because the WTA Finals was traveling so much, a lot of the facilities were temporary. They were built just for the tournament, and it didn't feel maybe as sort of worthy of the level of a WTA Finals, something that I think when you compare it to the ATP Finals, it's been in Italy and Turin for years, it didn't kind of have that same level. So I think a lot of people seeing it in Riyadh and having that sort of same prestige, that level where it's like, it's in an actual stadium. They had the same lights, the sort of the visual of a high level tournament. I think that's what a lot of people liked from last year's tournament. So we'll see what it looks like this year.
I got an answer. 2026 is the last year of the contract. So it's only a 3-year contract, actually.
That's next year.
Yeah, so I think they'll probably review. I would imagine Riyadh will offer a bunch of money to stay, considering there isn't space in the WTA calendar for another 1,000. Yeah, for here and now. So it's until 2026. It does look really good. I remember last year, like, huge show. I don't remember there being huge crowds. But this is something actually that is worth talking about in terms of, like, both the WTA finals and the ATP finals are fairly nomadic. They have medium-term contracts. Like, I think Turin's contract to host the ATP finals is up very soon. I think it might be this year. And I guess my question to you, Anastasia, would be, does location make a big difference in how willing you would be to travel to a finals event, ATP or WTA? I've been to the ATP finals, and that's because I was lucky enough to have it in the UK for like 10 years. So I went 3 times during that 12-year period. And it was a really, really cool event. And I would love to go again. I would love to try the WTA finals. But would the location make a big difference if you ever wanted to give it a go?
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying sort of, for example, if I had all the money in the world and all the resources, would I go to the WTA finals no matter where it was in the world? That's a good question. I think I would go. Like, I think I would go to Riyadh to check out the WTA finals, because for me, I think if the players are going, I would go. You know what I mean? Because if it's not for the players to go, then I think I would go and check it out, because I'm the sort of person who, you know, I don't know what the term is exactly, what like seeing is believing or whatever. It's like I want to see it for myself. You know what I mean? So it's definitely one of those things where if the players are going to Saudi Arabia, and I've listened to, especially when you hear players like Coco Gauff who are going to Saudi Arabia and speak very sort of like very smartly about it, I would definitely want to go there and check it out myself as well and see. So yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize the contracts were literally up next year. So we'll see if they renew right away or what happens, but it'll be interesting. I think also it'll probably come from sort of the players' experiences as well. I guess I hope they would take that into consideration if the players have either liked it or not, or if they want to give, you know, a different location a try. We'll see where it goes. But okay, so that's location. Format wise, you know, I think for new fans, the format of the WTA finals is a little different. It's a round robin format, kind of goes the same with how the ATP finals will work. So the teams are divided into 2. So it's, you know, there are 8 players, either 8 players in singles, 8 doubles teams that go. They're split up into 2, and it's a round robin format. So the top 2 players in each group go into then a regular quarterfinal. So is it semifinal and then final round, Nick?
Yeah, semi-final then final, yeah. Think of it like the group stage of a World Cup, essentially, like a football World Cup. I am saying football, I'm not saying soccer. Apologies to our majority American listeners. We have the true football here in Europe. The main thing with this is to remember that yeah, when you think about like a group stage in that tournament, as your Americans will experience when the World Cup comes to 2026, that yeah, they're all going to play each other in that group, and then the best performing players from that group will go through. The big difference from like the World Cup is it's not points based. You don't get points for if you win or draw. Well, you can't draw in tennis. So that's why. So I think the main thing I love this format because you're guaranteed to see the same player. Like they're guaranteed 3 matches with these players, and anyone could in theory be in with a shout of qualifying right up until the day before the semi-finals, which is really, really exciting. And they make sure of it by making sure, because it's like most matches won. Then if it's kind of a tie, they'll go to most sets won. If that's a tie, or percentage sets won. And then if it's a tie, it's percentage games won. And so with that format, especially when they do like the winners of the first day play each other the second time, and then the second lot of matches, and then the losers will play each other. So you've always got at least a couple of players within a shout of qualifying. There's always some jeopardy on the final set of matches. So I love the format for that reason, that you're guaranteed to see these players for at least a week. You are guaranteed some good matches all the way through with like all these top 8 players clashing with each other. The only downside is you need the qualification scenarios explaining to you unless you are willing to follow this with some kind of spreadsheet. So you have to like keep an eye on the press releases to say, well, who's got a chance and who's not, or just follow us on social media because we'll probably put out some emergency updates to say this is how this person can qualify and this person can't.
Yeah.
But that's the only downside of it for me, is it's not necessarily obvious what the scenarios are for people to get to the semi-finals once you're in the tournament.
Right, exactly. Especially when you get to that last day where you're sort of starting to do math and you're like, oh, tennis scoring is hard already. And now you're asking me to do math. Like, what's going on?
Like typical, I think last year, didn't we have, it might have been the WTA Finals or the ATP Finals, we had one group that was literally like, so the winner of this match goes through to join this other person who's already qualified. And then you had this other group, which was like, so if this person gets this many games, then they're through. If this person beats this person, they're through. But if that one gets this many games, then they're going to come in second. And it was literally like any possible scenario you could think of for that group. So it literally depends on how everything plays out.
Yeah, it can definitely get a little crazy. Okay, so who has qualified? We did a video a while ago where, I think the top sort of 6 players, they were kind of solidified a long time ago, and then the last 2 spots were the ones that were being fought for. But on the singles side, we've got Aryna Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, Amanda Anisimova, Jessica Pegula, Madison Keys, Jasmine Paolini, and Elena Rybakina. We'll talk about Elena Rybakina in a second, but I just have to say, guys, we've got 4 Americans in the group of 8. American women, American female tennis is crushing it this year. I think this group of 8 is such a testament to how well American women's tennis is doing in general. And I think that's just really, really great. And people should just take solace in that. We're doing super great. The guys should step it up a bit, and that's a topic for a different day. But I remember looking at this list and thinking, my goodness, like, I don't think it's not been like this for a very long time. So that was like really, really cool to see.
Yeah, could you imagine a world where the Americans lock out the semi-finals? Because that could actually happen.
That could actually happen, and that would be so crazy awesome. But it's tough. Like, this group of 8 players is such a strong field of 8 players. It is actually kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, this top 8. It's hard to tell who could be on top. I'm going to run through the doubles list, and then we're going to talk about sort of the last player to enter and what we think of the field. But the doubles teams that are in, we've got Arani Paolini, because obviously they win everything. Then we've got Townsend Siniakova, Dabrowski Routcliffe, Martins Kudermetova, Schneider Andreeva, Heishuei and Ostapenko. We've got Babos Stefani, and then we've got Mohammed Shurs. So that is the 8 doubles teams that have qualified again. Again, stacked doubles teams. I think you're really missing out if you don't watch the doubles. It's really great. And all of these teams this year have been at the latter stages of tournaments. So I think it would have been really easy for you to follow them throughout the sort of season. So definitely keep an eye on them. And if you want to start following them next season, you really, really should. But let us start first with Elena Rybakina, because she got in, so last minute. She got in so last minute, Nick, but she was determined. She was so determined.
They were shutting the flight gates and she barged her way through. She pushed aside Mirra Andreeva and just stampeded her way onto that plane to Riyadh. This was literally the last week she could have qualified, and it was literally between her and Andreeva left. They were the only 2 players who could contend for the last spot. Andreeva held that last spot, but Rybakina needed only to win 2 tennis matches to get it, and she did. She made the semi-finals in Tokyo, immediately withdrew. Immediately. It's like, right, a bit like, Paolini pulling out of Tokyo at the beginning of the tournament because she qualified after Ningbo. But she was like, right, don't need to exhaust myself anymore. I'm going to keep myself as fresh as possible for Riyadh, get herself there. Here, Linda Noskova have a place in the final. Really good performance, especially since she was playing some people who have tripped her up this year, like Leila Fernandez in DC and Victoria Mboko in Canada. Both having to save, she had match points against them in both those tournaments. She could have won them. And so she got a little bit of a revenge arc in that tournament, taking them out and getting her over the line into the top 8, which is great to see. Also kind of last minute, because I think in terms of Rybakina's results, her headlines have not been as impressive this season because she's not won as big tournaments as everybody else, but she's been super consistent presence and around, and she's got a couple of good, decent wins, especially against Aryna Sabalenka. So it's not a surprise, and it's kind of nice that half the field are Grand Slam champions as well at this point. More than half, 5 out of the 8. Yeah. So that's exciting.
No. So it's just like it was an incredible last push. And like you said, the first half of her year was it wasn't great. She was dealing with a lot of personal issues. And I think it was just sort of a very topsy-turvy season for her. But I watched, obviously, because she was making this push to try and make it to Riyadh. I watched a lot of her matches at the end of Ningbo and then into Tokyo. And if that Elena Rybakina, who played Katerina Alexandrova, shows up in Riyadh, she might surprise people. She might be sort of like the last one in and then the one who gets all the way to the end. Because she found her game. She's serving big again, and she just reminded me of the player who won Wimbledon. And it was nice to see that player again, because she has been missed on tour. And I was actually weirdly very proud of her for making it to the finals, because I think, and we can now bring, I think, Mirra Andreeva into this, because Mirra Andreeva won 2 1,000 titles. Like she had that epic sort of like early start to the year, and she got, super deep in Grand Slams and just was really doing well this year. So it kind of is like, how is it possible that she hasn't made it to the year-end finals? And it's, I think, just because Elena Rybakina was like, no, I want to go. I would rather go to the year-end finals. And, this also brings up a question, because a lot of people online were asking, like, why didn't Mirra Andreeva enter Tokyo? Because I think if she had entered Tokyo, won a few matches, she would have gotten the points to, get to Riyadh. And Ellen Perez, who is a doubles player, jumped in online, and I posted about this and commented about it, that Mirra Andreeva could not get a visa to get to Tokyo. She was given a wild card and had to turn down the wild card because she couldn't get a visa to get to Tokyo. This is a thing that some players have to deal with. Mirra is a Russian national, and it is harder for Russian nationals to get visas to go to different countries because of the current war that's happening in Ukraine. We all know this. This is something that's happening in the world. But she's not the only one. It's something that a lot of players have to deal with. I remember a few months ago, Alex Ayala gave an interview where she talked about the fact that it is harder for her to get visas to go to certain countries, and she has to really plan ahead if she wants to go to certain tournaments. So it's a little, it's a topic that's not talked about a lot, I think, in tennis. And I think it definitely should be, because these are athletes that travel 11 months out of the year. Like, their whole job is traveling from country to country to country. And depending on where you're from, it might be harder for you to get to certain places. Like, if Mirra was able to last minute get a visa to go to Tokyo, she could be in the, of course, she's already in the finals as a doubles player, but she could have been in the singles draw as well.
Yeah, could have been. Might still be if someone pulls out. But so she's not wasting a train ticket. You can't get a train to Riyadh. Plane ticket to Riyadh. Wrong vehicle. Yeah, it won't be a waste of time. But yeah, visas, nobody really talks about them because everyone assumes, oh yeah, you can get in anywhere. And yet we do hear stories about players struggling to get through the immigration process at some places, even into the United States. So yeah, absolutely. If it's a necessary part of your job, and some countries don't want to let you in, then you're kind of stuck. And last minute stuff it's going to be a lot difficult to manage. And as someone who doesn't really travel much to other countries, it's not something we can really imagine. Or if you travel loads and you have no issues, then you're a very lucky person. Probably from one of our countries. I think it's only one of those things that we probably have to interview a player about, right? And ask, hey, what is your experience of doing travel bookings? I bet you a lot of them will go, yeah, my agent does that. At least the ones who are like in the top 10.
Yeah. So let's talk about, the field in general, because you just mentioned, for example, you're like, because Mirra will be an alternate in the singles draw, and you just said, hey, if everyone shows up. And I don't know if anyone's noticed, I've not seen Madison Keys anywhere, guys. Not since the US Open. I have not seen her anywhere. So that's a big, big question mark. I saw that Amanda Anisimova. Yeah, Amanda Anisimova. What are we talking about? Yeah, she's in Riyadh already. So she's there. Players are going to start heading over to start early training and all of that stuff. I just haven't seen Madison Keys. So that is a player that, for example, I would not be surprised if we get the news that she has withdrawn from the year-end finals. We know that she was injured after the US Open. So we will see. She didn't participate at all during the Asian swing. So we will see what happens there. Otherwise, though, this field that we have in the doubles, well, we'll save it for the doubles, because maybe there are some favorites that we might say in the doubles, but in the singles, it is so hard to nail down favorites in the singles. It is stacked right now.
Anyone could beat each other, and they have this season, or made it darn close. I am looking at this field and I'm going, yeah, I don't know who to pick. Like, Key's injury kind of puts a question mark about it, but she could easily just show up and start and thwack everybody off the court. Jessica Pegula's been gaining in confidence recently, and she's done well at WTA Finals before. You've got Rybakina, as I said, who seems to be hitting form around at this end of the year, and we saw this a few years ago with Annette Kontaveit suddenly getting a load of late season tournaments and qualifying, and then made the final of the event. You've got Jasmine Paolini, who has been growing from strength to strength and has finally got a win against Iga Swiatek in probably one of the best matches she's ever played in this Asian swing, and keeps going on. That's just the 5 to 6 range. Amanda Anisimova is more than capable of blowing anyone off the court when she gets going. She's got wins against Iga and Arena this year. You've got Coco, who is who's the defending champion at this event. And then you've got Iga and Arena themselves, who, are the ones that everyone pays attention to and what they're going to do. And I think picking a champion from this list is really, really hard, because we know they have great rivalries in different ways with each other. And you won't know until they step out on court what they're going to do. We don't do predictions on this podcast anyway, because that's not what we do. But even if we did, we literally couldn't give you this person's probably going to win kind of thing, because just you can't from this field.
Yeah. I always say picking winners in tennis is a fool's errand, in my opinion. I just think tennis is such a sport where you're tempting fate trying to pick a winner, because the scoring system, players peaking at certain times, it's just tough to try and, figure it all out. Hey, people have done it. I don't know if maybe people who are not on X, but there is a sort of like a X user who predicted, what was it, Wimbledon? Was it Wimbledon? That
twice in a row.
Yeah, twice in a row, out of nowhere, predicted the winner of Wimbledon based on if they lost to a Kudermetova.
Who plays a certain player in round one.
Yeah, it was just so random. So again, I think it's so hard to sort of predict tennis, but yes, you're right. With this group, it's doubly tough, like to pick a favorite from this group. I'm just going to be sitting down and watching the entertainment, because if all these girls who by the way have had close to 2 weeks off, all of them, for the most part, maybe not Elena, and maybe not Jasmine has had 2 weeks off as well. So I think Elena's the only one who's played like literally to the last second. The rest have had breaks, so they're coming fresh. My goodness, that's exciting. That's like exciting to be, to watch. On the double side, I don't know. It's hard not to pick, Paulini and Irani, because they're just the doubles team to beat. But at the same time, the defending champions of the year-end final are Dabrowski-Rouncliffe. They won it last year. So you never know. And you have Townsend-Siniakova in this group. I think, I said maybe we would be able to pick from the double side who the favorites are, but now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know.
Like, literally, I'm looking at it and this is going to make me eat my words, because I bet you that we're going to get either Babos Stefani or Mohammed Shers winning it at this point. But with that in mind, if I was looking at this list, I'm like, yeah, there are 6 teams who are joint favourites in my mind.
Yeah.
Because you've got 4 of them being the 4 different Grand Slam winning teams from this year, all of whom are very strong and were title contenders at every slam anyway. Plus Shane Ostapenko, who everyone's been making a fuss of all year, and Andreeva Schneider, who've been the star young doubles team since that Olympics run that they had last year. Yeah, don't predict it. It's gonna be even more chaotic, I would say, especially since a lot of them are gonna have to play each other straight off the bat. I think the main stories of the group stages is how competitive are those last 2 teams going to be?
Yeah. I think this WTA Finals is, for me, one of the most exciting of recent times, and I can't wait for it to start. So we have some time. It doesn't start till November 1st, but if you're listening, you now have time to sort of figure it all out. You know the structure now. You know who the players are. You can get to know them even better. Let us know in the comments who you're excited to see. I want to know who you think is going to win it. We're not going to pick. I'm not going to pick, but I know a lot of you love to pick who you think is going to win the WTA Finals. So you guys go ahead in the comments, in the messages, drop us a line. Let us know who you think is going to win the WTA Finals on the singles and doubles. Don't forget about the doubles.
Bustin' with the Boys is here to let you know that every college football Saturday, FanDuel is dropping profit boosts that can turn wins into bigger wins.
Sounds like we should rename Saturday Booster Day.
Nice.
21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Okay, Paris Masters. Let's talk about the dudes. The dudes are going through it. We're going to get to them going through it, but let's quickly look at the Paris Masters, which is the last 1,000 level event on the men's side. It's indoors. It's at a new location. It used to be at Paris-Bercy, but they moved to a new location because it's bigger. So it has more capacity for crowds, and also it has more courts. You remember from last year, if you watched this last year, this was the Masters event that, the matches were going to midnight. It was crazy. They were going so late. And wasn't this the tournament, Nick? I can't remember specifically, but I think Sinner withdrew because his match was going so late, or was it?
Maybe.
I can't remember. Something of that nature happened, but I think that matches weren't starting till 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. And I think he played a super, super late match and then had to play, obviously, the very next day because, by the way, this is a Masters 1000, but it's one of the Masters that is still only a week long. So you don't have that break of a day in between, and he had to play the next day. And I think he withdrew, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember at all, so I'm going to have to go with what you're saying.
I actually am going to look this up. Hold on. Okay, so I looked it up with the help of Nick, and what I was thinking about was actually in 2023, because Sinner did not play in 2024, but Sinner did withdraw from his round of 16 match because his round of 32 match went really long and he didn't have a lot of hours. It was definitely under 12 hours to recover for the next day's match, and he withdrew. And this was all because they just didn't have enough courts to play the first round. So everything just kept getting backed up, and then it gets moved to the next day and all of that. So they, long story short, is they moved to a new location to help alleviate all of the backlog. And so far, so good. You know, Carlos Alcaraz was saying in press that he loves the location and he thinks it's better for the players. So that's good. By the way, he's blonde again. Like blonde Caraz is back. He's fully blonde.
Did he?
I wonder how long this will last.
He's been blonde since the US swing. Like, he didn't change his hair back, did he, for Shanghai?
No, he was so, and here's the difference. I mean, maybe because I'm a girl, I notice. When after the US Open, when he first dyed it, it was silver. So it was a gray silver, and then it grew out during sort of the Asian swing. So he had a lot of, like, even for the Six King Slam, he had a lot of the black showing and stuff. And when he took the week off after the Six King Slam, he cut it again, but this time he's come back and it's now a full Ken blonde. Like it's more blonde than it is silver, which I like it. It kind of suits him. And it seems like he's liking it. So who knows how long he'll stay blonde. Maybe he'll show up in Australia blonde. Who knows? I mean, it'll be summer in Australia. So who knows? But yeah, so Masters in a new location. And, you know, Alcaraz is back. And like I said, he took a week off, which, considering what we're going to be talking about in the next few, it seems like that was a very smart move that he did.
Well, yeah, but you know, we didn't really need to. Like, he could have taken a week. Like, he didn't need to play in the next round, and I think, you know, he's scheduling smartly. I don't know why Sinner played last week, but clearly he felt the need to. Maybe he needs to get some fitness back after Shanghai, but it does seem to be that Alcaraz is feeling the need to play a lighter schedule at this point in the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
definitely something players are starting to do, which I think is smart. I think they, you know, it's definitely something they, you know, if the schedule is going to be the way it is for now, they really need to sort of pick and choose where it is they play and be strict about it, you know, because it is their bodies that they are putting on the line. The cousins are back. And of course, because it's Paris, they've been everywhere. I was watching the draw ceremony, and of course they were the ones doing the draw. And of course, you know, I don't believe in the whole rigged draw thing. I really don't. Draws are not rigged, guys. It's a computer system and they just put it in there. And, you know, sometimes algorithms are very similar, and that's why maybe we get similar draws and all of that stuff. But the fact that they might meet each other in the second round is insane.
It's just everyone wants these two to play each other.
Even the computers want them to play each other. Because I think it's absolutely insane that not only do they fall in the same half of the draw, that they might play each other in the second round. And whoever wins will play probably Carlos in the third round, which I think is also crazy. Have you looked at the draw for the Paris Masters?
I have looked at the matches. I haven't looked at where they are in the draw, if that makes any sense. So I've looked on my scoring app, but I
Yes.
haven't looked. But it doesn't necessarily put it in draw order. So I know what first round matches are happening. I don't know who's going to play who next.
Yeah. There's some pretty good ones to start. Kind of a couple of my favorites. Well, now that they've put the qualifiers in, Ethan Quinn, he qualified for the Paris Masters, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, this time last year, he was here in the States, like playing challengers, and here he is qualifying for the Paris Masters, which I thought was super cool. But he plays Kachanov first round, which I
Nice.
thought, you know, that's going to be very, very interesting. Tall, big servers. Like, I think indoors is both their things. So I think that should be a fun match. And then Munar Medvedev, sit me down in a corner with popcorn. Munar Medvedev, awesome.
Well, yeah, that's definitely going to have upset a little bit all over it, given Munar's season. That's going to be a real fight between those two. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think that would be my pick as well for like the most interesting match. Do you remember when Karen Khachanov won the Paris Masters, Anastasia?
Yes, he did. When was that? That wasn't last
2018.
year, right? No.
2018, he beat Novak in the final. I think it's probably the only time he's beaten Novak, but weirdly he played like a king in that tournament and walked away with it. My pick is actually because I found this hilariously funny, because I have a cruel sense of humour. Shapovalov against Fonseca.
Tell the story.
Okay, so I think the best way to basically sum it up is Denis Shapovalov rage quit this week in Basel. And if you don't know what rage quit means, go play some video games. Fonseca and Denis Shapovalov playing in the quarterfinals, and I was actually watching this match because I thought it'd be an interesting match, and it was like they were really, obviously they're both quite aggressive players, and Shapovalov won the first set and then started double faulting on a regular basis at round about the same time as João Fonseca started really upping the ante and really ripping the forehand, we know he can do. And by the third set, Shapovalov was just getting so fed of being outplayed by Fonseca that he started complaining that Fonseca was like taking too long to be ready for the return, and that was putting him off. And I'm like, clearly that was that. I think it's going to take more than that for you to double fault as many times as you are, mate. And eventually, after going down a break in, I think it was like 3-1 or something like that in the third set, Shapovalov eventually shook hands with the umpire and said, "I'm done," and left a very bemused João Fonseca on the court. He might have been injured. I don't know. But for all intents and purposes, it did look like the Denis Shapovalov rage quit. So the fact that he's playing Fonseca in round one of Paris is just hilarious to me, because that just means he's got to go through this again. And he's really got to get his serve working. And I'm very interested to see how well that play out, particularly given he's going to be a couple of days fresher than Fonseca, because Fonseca actually ends up doing quite well in Basel. But yeah, that's my pick for the lols.
No, I think it's going to be everyone's pick for the lols. I think everyone should totally watch that one, because like that's one of those, tempting fate matches. Just, you rage quit and here the gods are testing you again.
You will finish a match with João Fonseca.
You will finish a match with João Fonseca. What else happened? Last thing for Paris Masters before we move on, Grigor Dimitrov is back. We are so happy he is back. He's back. He's in a draw. He's practicing on court, smiling. It's great.
He's got a tough first round though, right? Like he's is it GMP?
Is it GMP? Let me look.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
He's playing Giovanni and Petri Pericard in one of the evening sessions tomorrow. So, which would be 6:00 my time, 7:00 Paris time, which would make it, because of the time zone change, time zone difference has just changed between me and Anastasia, 2 p.m. for Anastasia.
Yeah. That is a tough draw to start an indoor tournament with.
You know what? I can't, at this point in the season, right? Like, he's been very sensible, obviously, making sure he's ready to go. If it was this late in the season and I just got better, I would not. If I had the ranking of Grigor Dimitrov, I wouldn't bother coming back at this point. Not unless I'm feeling really good about it going deep at this draw.
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, it's funny, especially with these athletes. I think they just really miss competing. Like, I think it's like a thing where they just miss being out there on the court. I just thought it was just nice to see him after, because it was just so devastating the way he ended Wimbledon. And I almost feel I would rather not that be the last image of Grigor Dimitrov in 2025, even if he loses tomorrow. That would be better than, that image of him at Wimbledon, which was just so devastating. So, yeah.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes, so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews, all on the app. Download today.
Next up, let's run through quickly some tour news, because there was some stuff happening. Arthur Fils is out for the season. His back issue is really bad. It has pretty much been going since the French Open was where, and I've heard some people say it started as early as kind of like end of Monte Carlo into sort of Barcelona, this back issue he had. But I think the first place it kind of, hit was after his match against Jaume Munar at Roland Garros. So he's out for the season. I know he did try to come back, but it didn't really work. But he's done. Hopefully he will be ready to come back for Australia. Fingers crossed. Back issues are not good. They're not good. And then this was what we were talking about earlier, way in the beginning. New Masters, a 10th Masters for the ATP. Currently, it is ATP only. It is going to be in Saudi Arabia. So this is the news that we know as of right now. It is a 10th Master. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. It is 1 week only. And technically, they haven't put it in a schedule yet. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, it's February," but the press release doesn't say when in the schedule it's gonna be. We just know that it's going to be starting 2028 is when this new Masters is coming on the calendar.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it's going to be in February. Like, I appreciate the press release didn't say it, but everyone kind of agrees that it's probably where it's going to be. And it's going to be non-mandatory, like Monte Carlo. So yes, there's no like penalties for top players for skipping it, unlike the other 1,000 events. So it's kind of this, we're adding to the calendar because they've just offered a load of money for the prize pot. But we're going to at least listen a little bit to the players and not make it mandatory and add more to the schedule. So it's kind of this compromise situation to, allow a country that's been wanting to get more tennis events and get an official men's tournament going there. And I think there was a lot of talk about, was there going to be 2 weeks right at the start of the year? And they'd have to push the Australian Open back, and the Australian Open were not having it. So this seems to be a compromise move. Probably the best way they could have done it. We'll have to see if it's in February, because I don't know when else on the calendar you're going to put it, to be honest. It is what it is. It starts in 2028, so we have a couple of years to get used to the idea.
Yeah. Part of this, Masters as well, is they have provided some money to the ATP that a lot of people have been discussing. I think, in fact, Zverev, I don't know how much of all this is official, because when you just see things posted online, I'm always like, no. I want to see the official news, sort of the official news clippings of it. But apparently the idea would be to buy back some tournaments in order to reduce the tournaments on the calendar. And a lot of discussion is it would be getting rid of the 250 level of tournaments, keeping the challengers, getting rid of a lot of the 250 levels of tournaments. So that will be very, very interesting. Also, something that I did not put on our running order, Nick, but just a quick note on that, because it did also, a press release came out on that, but the prize money at the challenger level next year is going way up. Apparently, the ATP announced 167% increase in challenger prize money, which is a lot of percentage increase. So that is great for challenger level players who, it would be great if at that level they're also making a living and are not having to sort of like play more than they need to just to get by, because that also puts wear and tear on their body. So it's all interesting. It's all, it's tennis. And I think, even if you're just getting into it, it's interesting to see it kind of evolve over time. And I feel like in the next couple of years, the sport is going to go through a bit of an evolution. So it will be interesting to pay attention to what that's going to be. Davis Cup. Couple of Davis Cup things that I have opinions on.
Okay.
And I just wanted to put them out there because I was like, everyone calm down. So 2 things. So Davis Cup happens at the end of the year after the ATP finals, after the ATP end of year finals. And Sinner, so Italy is the defending champion. Sinner announced that he will not be playing the Davis Cup. By the way, he played the last 2 years of Davis Cup finals, but he's not going to be playing this year. And that caused an uproar in Italy. And I think part of it was, I completely understand, because obviously with Sinner on your team, he's one of the best players in the world. You do you have that extra edge, and you can hopefully successfully defend your title. It's not guaranteed, obviously. Nothing's ever guaranteed like that. But I think Sinner, from all the news clippings I saw, like, it's so irrational, this hate that he's getting for not playing Davis Cup. He played 2 years prior, and he chose this year to take a year off to prepare for the Australian Open. Now, you might be thinking, wait a second, but didn't he just win Australian Open 2 years in a row? But I'm like, the pressure then is even more if he wants to try for a three-peat. Like, when was the last time a player three-peat, like the Australian Open? I don't even know.
It's going to be Novak, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be Novak. Did he three-peat it? Yeah, he did three-peat it. 2011, 2012, 2013.
Yeah. So again, I feel like that's going to be the challenge for Sinner going into next year, is trying to do the three-peat of the Australian Open. And I also feel like, hey, if you've done Davis Cup 2 years in a row, it's your right to sort of like take a year off. And I don't know, it'll be fine.
Yeah, sorry. He did it more recent than that. 19, 20, 21. That was the second Novak three-peat in Australia.
Wow. Novak, way to go. He's won it 10 times, right? Yeah. He's won it 10 times. Then the other Davis Cup thing on the other side of it was Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. He's the second-ranked Spanish player, but he was left off of the Spanish Davis Cup team. And instead, they took basically all the players except like who played the tie to get them to the finals, and then they added Carlos Alcaraz, and then Granollers. Now, Granollers didn't play the tie because at the time it was post U.S. Open, and he had a foot injury, so he was going through that. Carlos didn't play the tie because he just won the U.S. Open and wanted to take some time off before Laver Cup. And I'm sorry, it's Carlos Alcaraz. just like Sinner, if you have him on your team, you kind of want to bring him on, to give yourself the best chance of winning. And ADF kind of he took to the press and was sort of like, I deserve a spot. But I feel like he doesn't really have ground to stand on because he chose twice to not go to the Davis Cup tie, and each time it was for very sketchy reasons, I would say, in quotations. And I don't know. It wasn't a good look, I thought, because I thought the team that got Spain to the finals was such a scratch team, and they had to dig deep to get that. I remember watching that tie against, it was Denmark, and they just did not have a chance in the world to make it to the finals. And yet they sort of like figured it out and made it there. And I think every single member of that team that won that tie earned their place in the finals.
Yeah. And you can't just get in if you're not going to be a team player, right? They're going to pick the best team who's going to work together. And obviously also having the best team is going to be Carlos Alcaraz. They'd be better off picking Jaime Munar in some ways. So I think this is where the fact they picked Carlos Alcaraz, though, for me, makes the Sinner news disappointing, because I think a Carlos Alcaraz Jannik Sinner match at the Davis Cup, especially if it was the final for Italy and Spain, first of all, would be an insane atmosphere, because if you've got the Italian and the Spanish fans in the same room, that's going to be the most like soccer, football atmosphere you can get. But also it would put Davis Cup really back on the map where it hasn't been. It's kind of like this extra tournament that you only make a fuss of if your country's involved. And I think that would have some stake to give it some stakes in the wider tennis rivalry, as I don't think the Davis Cup has really been for a very, very long time. Definitely not in the professional era. So I think it would put it back on the map. I don't think we ever really got a big three clash in the Davis Cup, actually. Maybe very early on when they were proto big three, but not when they became big stars. And that would have also put it on the map. So yeah, no problem with Sinner pulling out this year overall, but would like to see a Sinner Davis Cup match at some point.
Yeah. No, I take your point there, because you are right. If it was a Sinner Davis Cup match at the end, definitely. Even not, because I don't think we even know what the draw is yet. So they might even meet earlier than the end. It would bring eyeballs to the Davis Cup. And I don't know, maybe we have definitely a bigger discussion about Davis Cup and how it is currently structured. And because I know this was a big discussion during Laver Cup, and, what's more important, Laver Cup or Davis Cup. And I think they're just in two different buckets. But we won't go down that rabbit hole right now, but it's definitely something we can talk about in the future. Okay, let's look back at this week of winners. Joao Fonseca, 19, wins his second title, this time a 500 in Basel. That was really awesome. He won against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, who is still titleless. Still. It's rough.
No, I'm super excited for Joao Fonseca. I think he's going to win loads of titles. And I'm always rooting for the breakthrough. Could you not throw ADF about? Can ADF win a title? Like, I was gutted that he still hasn't won one, because this is his third 500 final he's been to. He's not won any of them. Still hasn't won any kind of tour title. He's not getting any younger either. So, that was, I think, okay, away from that kind of a mixture of, Fonseca might be about to hit big, because it's around about this point in the season Jack Draper won a 500. I think he won Vienna rather than Basel, but that was where I think that did a lot for his ranking and getting in the position he got to win Indian Wells. And so now it's time to really start getting excited about what Fonseca can do now. But at the same time, I'm like, but Davidovich Fokina and winning a title would be cool.
Yeah.
There was kind of a mixed feeling about this. It was a bit of a chaotic one in Basel, though, because suddenly about at the quarterfinal stage, like 3 of the 4 quarterfinals ended in retirements, which was just ridiculous. Okay, one of them was the rage quit.
Yes.
But still.
One of them was the rage quit, but still I think it was a bit of, and I didn't know how to sort of categorize what was happening, because we had retirements from Casper Ruud, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Denis Shapovalov, Ugo Humbert also retired. Who was the other one that retired? I can't remember now if I named all of them, but it's the end of the season. It's been a long season. Niggles are happening and everything. And, I was sort of like, all these players are going to go play at the Paris Masters, all of them. So they're all still in the Paris. Well, actually, yes, all of them, even Ugo Humbert, because I know Ugo Humbert's coach, Jeremy Chardy, was sort of like, I don't know if he's going to play or if he's going to pull out, but they're all still in the draw for the Paris Masters. And I wondered if they were sort of preserving their bodies for the Paris Masters because it's a Masters event. I didn't know. But yeah, I felt bad for the audience at Basel, because all the quarterfinals were back to back, and literally it was sort of like, after the first one, so the first one was like Riley Opelka, and can't remember who was playing now, but literally it was sort of like back to back after one person retired. Then the next match, then the next match. And you could just hear the boos, and they were sad. And, it was sad scenes, I think, for the crowd, for the players, for everything. And yeah, and, going back to sort of Carlos choosing not to play this week, it's kind of like, if the schedule is going to be the way it is, as it is right now, I think players are going to start having to really think seriously about what it is they play, when they play it. I think it was Novak Djokovic who said, when the discussions for these 2-week Masters were happening, nobody participated player-wise. Like, everyone was kind of like, on their own, doing their own thing. And now that the results of the 2-week Masters are happening, everyone's kind of like, the schedule. And he's like, well, but nobody was participating when they were signing the deals, So I think if the players don't participate and make a stand, things are just gonna keep going the way they're going.
We say this, we didn't really have this problem with Vienna.
True. That's true too. Yeah. So
we didn't get mass withdrawals from Vienna. We had one, but that's it.
We had one, just Griekspoor. Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is down to the individual players and how they're managing things as well, and their kind of decision to kind of, is this tournament worth it? And clearly the guys at Vienna decided it was worth it, because you ended up with a Sinner-Zverev final, like the 2 best players who were in the draw.
Yeah.
1v3 final, like next best thing to, 2v3 final, next best thing to a 1v2. So like,
and it actually turned out to be
worth winning.
Yeah, and it actually turned out to be a great final. Like, it's funny because, I don't know about you, Nick, but I tend to, in all honesty, get a little bit bored with Sinner tournaments that don't include Alcaraz, because I'm sort of like, okay, walk him to the final already, just like, let's skip to the end. So I did not watch the final because I just assumed. I was sort of like, okay, great, he's going to win the title. I'll watch Fonseca Fokina, only to be texted by a friend saying, Sinner's losing. And I was like, what? So I turned it on to watch Zverev play the best tennis he's played in a very, very long time. He still lost, but I think that's the best tennis I've seen Zverev play in a while. He played very well. Yeah. So
I didn't see the match. Sorry.
Oh, you didn't watch it? Okay.
No, I did not. I did not watch this match. I saw the scores and I was like, oh, Zverev is up a set. We'll see how long that lasts. And then, truth be told, we saw how long that lasted, because Yannick Sinner clearly figured something out.
Yeah. He kind of did the thing where it's like, and you know what? Okay. If you don't know, Zverev has diabetes. I always wonder, because this is something we always say, we're like, he did the thing he always does. He wins the first set, then he loses the next set. I always personally wonder how much that has to do with his sugar levels coming down or anything like that. I don't know if anyone's ever asked him that question before. I find it very fascinating. No one tends to ask him a lot about his diabetes, but it's a thought that I've always had. But he did the thing where he wins the first set and he immediately sort of crashed a bit in the second set. The third set was definitely closer. And Sinner just played 3 very great games. It literally got down to the wire at the end, and he just played 3 very great games, and it ended 7-5 in the end. So yeah, that was not a bad match afterwards. On the WTA side, Bencic is now top. She's 11 in the world on Monday.
Like, this is the woman who was outside the top 400 at the beginning of the year. Literally just come back from maternity leave 12 months ago. And she's playing like she never left. Second title of the year in Tokyo after winning Abu Dhabi back in February. The child's now a year old, which is over a year old, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, what a season. What a season for Belinda Bencic. She's obviously, she beat Linda Noskova in the final pretty straightforwardly, but she had a couple of really tough matches to get there. Like, she had to beat Karolina Mukova in the semis, I think, or the quarters. There was she's had she had to really battle her way through the draw, and I think she's going to turn out to be. I think even though she's now seeded, so she won't necessarily be eligible for us in the future, I think she's got to be one of our ground pass sort of players of the year, or like one of the best seasons we've seen from, like, you could see on a ground pass, these kind of comeback stories that you could enjoy. So, Belinda Bencic, 400-11, one of the stories of the season, in my opinion. And I think we'll probably be talking about her quite a bit in our end of year wrap up.
Definitely. She's had an awesome season. And then in Gwangju, the title was won by An Lee. She won the final against Lulu Sun. An Lee's, she's an American player that we don't talk about a lot. She's in the sort of like top 50 range, and she just flies under the radar. And again, it's like she just really does fly under the radar, because one of her biggest sort of runs at a tournament was at Cleveland, Tennis in the Land, which was just before the US Open. So everyone's focus was in, the mixed doubles championship and Fan Week and all of that. So you weren't really paying attention to that run specifically. But she wins the title here. I think she will be ranked either 40 or something close to that on Monday. And definitely someone worth seeing on a ground pass. Great win for her. Great sort of end to the season. Going into next year, I think she does head over. There is one more week of tournaments, and she will be heading over for the last week of the season to maybe get herself into, trying to get herself into a seeded position going into the Australian Open. So good on her. Good on her.
Yeah, she's a name that I've seen on and off over the years since about 2021, and definitely a talented player who can cause some chaos in the mix. You're saying the tournaments that are happening next week. So we talked a lot about the Paris Masters on the men's side. That's the only one happening there. So the women's side, just say like there's a few more tournaments. There's an event happening in Chennai in India. There's Hong Kong, and then there's the last China tournament, which is Zhejiang. So a lot of players who are kind of outside the top 8, trying to get their seasons finished on a high. So we'll see who kind of picks up the last few titles of the season. In terms of players, like I think that Hong Kong's the one with the big players in it, because you've got Bencic is probably might be playing that, depends how she feels like it. You've got Fernandez and Boko, Kenin, some of the kind of the stars of this Asian swing so far. taking part in that tournament. So that's what you have to look forward to in Hong Kong. The other tournaments are kind of like players you wouldn't ordinarily see seeded at pretty much any tournament are getting seeded. And that's really exciting for them to have a shot and get themselves some big points towards their rankings. So those ones in Chennai and Shenzhen, I don't know how to pronounce that one. I'm sorry. Are probably going to be a little bit more open, a bit more exciting, and some names to celebrate coming out of it. But yeah, if you want to know who's playing where, if you want the names, go watch Hong Kong.
Yeah, I definitely, super excited for Hong Kong. It's funny, someone we follow on Threads posted a photo that came out of Hong Kong. It was a photo from the players' party, and it was of Alex Ayala, Maya Joint, Victoria Mumboku, and Leila Fernandez, and they all took a selfie together at the party. And I just captioned it, "It's the future." And that is the future of the WTA. So if you want to watch the future of the WTA, go watch Hong Kong.
The fight for our future starts with belief in our nation and its promise, in our future and its potential. Together we answer America's call to win. We are Marines. We were made for this.
Okay, friends. Well, that has been this week of Ground Pass. We will be back next week again. Next week, we have scheduled, we're going to sort of be in the WTA Finals. The WTA Finals are starting on Saturday, so we'll be sort of like a few matches in. We will talk about that. And of course, the Paris Masters will be over, so we'll catch up on who the winner is and how the tournament went and all of that stuff, including the ATP Finals, which we didn't really talk about in terms of the race and who's qualified. Right now, the only people who've qualified are Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, Novak Djokovic, who we don't even know if he's going, and Alexander Zverev. So stay tuned to our social media. We'll have videos on that of who's in contention this week in Paris to go to the Year Finals on the men's side. And yeah, we'll catch up on all of the other stuff next week. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Wherever you're listening, please consider rating us. It does help with people finding our podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, welcome, all of you. And please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next week. Bye, guys.